Don't want to wear pants? Then you can go home. All right, bet. The summer after my senior year in high school, I worked collecting shopping carts at a grocery store. I lived on the coast, so it was hot as hell during the summers. It was one of those uppity grocery chains, so we had a pretty strict dress code. White long-sleeve dress shirt, tucked into khaki dress slacks. But because I worked outside a good portion of the day, management let me wear khaki shorts and a short sleeve button-up. All was fine until towards the end of the summer. We got a new general manager who was much stricter on policy than the old one had been. When I came in for my first shift with the new manager, he called me into his office. This is, vaguely, how our conversation went. From what I can remember. Manager. There have been some changes. Your uniform is clearly lacking in several areas and I'll need you to correct it. We'll need you to go home and change into pants and the provided long sleeve button up. Me. Thinking he had mistaken me for someone who works inside. Actually, sir, I collect carts, so I'm allowed to wear shorts. Manager. Son. I said what I said. Either you adhere to the dress code or you go home. Me. So I don't have a choice but to wear pants. In 90+ degree heat in the height of summer? Manager. That is the policy. And being smart with me is not getting us off on the right foot. Me. All right, then. I'm going home. Manager. Good. Thank you for your understanding. I walked out of his office fully understanding that he expected me to actually come back. But his ultimatum was to either wear pants or not come to work. So I chose the latter. I was going away to college in a couple weeks, so I chose not to sweat my balls off 6 hours a day. For $7.25 an hour. I was at home about an hour later. Chilling. Talking to my friends on Xbox 360 Party Chat, and I got a call from my manager. Furious. He was asking me why the hell I was taking so long. That we were swamped and desperately needed a cart collector. I told him I wasn't coming back. Of course he didn't take this well. He told me to get back there right then or I would be fired. Which I responded with, well, I thought that was the idea. He was absolutely dumbfounded. He hadn't expected me to call his bluff on something he considered to be so inconsequential. Because he wasn't the one outside pushing carts in the heat. He tried to talk me into coming back, but I told him he gave me two options. And I had chosen option 2. I never went back into work. I found out that the cart collectors were only made to wear pants for a few days after that until the new manager relented and let them wear shorts. I never got a call with an apology from him, but I didn't care. I enjoyed the time off before going to college. Service industry manager with no empathy. Don't act like you don't need this job. Quote. Your average teenager. I'm not acting. I really don't. Until we have robots doing these jobs, we'll probably continue to get a steady stream of these satisfying stories. The first time someone needed M's for heat exhaustion or a customer complained the lot person looked sick from the heat and they were calling M's would get action and open them up to a lawsuit for negligence. My dad works in an industry where people occasionally have to go into the field and do site visits to take measurements and whatnot. He's moved around to different companies over the years, going wherever the work and or better pay was. No big deal. My dad does not like to fly, but he has gone on many of these site visits because he has been able to drive to them, either in his personal vehicle if it's close enough, or in a company-provided rental. The last time he changed jobs, he was asked if he was willing to travel for work, and he told them he was willing to drive, but not willing to fly. That must not have been a problem, because they hired him. Recently, They had a couple of jobs come up that would require site visits. And my dad's boss tried to talk him into going to one. My dad was like, sure. Set up the rental car and the hotel. No can do, says the bossman. This one requires that you fly there and back. Well, then I'm not going, says my dad. You may not have a choice, says the boss. I have a choice, replied my dad. It's just one you're betting I won't make. They sent someone else. My dad still works there. And when they started having to downsize due to COVID, he was one of the very few. Two, I think, mechanical designers they kept on. I can tell you as a EHS manager for a chemical company in TX that you better make damn sure your employees are good to go. We have both water and Gatorade with ice in coolers for our personnel to drink. If at any time they need a break, they are getting it. Thankfully, we also conduct heat stress and heat exhaustion training and limit what work can be done, as well as keep a hydration log during the summer months to ensure everyone is staying hydrated and we don't run into issues. Managers should learn to pick their battles. He chose poorly. I think a lot of managers are going to face this in the next coming months with the whole all fire you shtick. There seems to be growing number of people who hear the my way or the highway, and more people than expected are taking the highway, leaving a lot of these places short-staffed. Good on you for not caving when you didn't have to. There is a certain sort of prick in the world that thinks simply disagreeing with someone as being smart. I've run into a few in my time and they are always miserable people to be around. Glad to see one get what's coming to him. I do kitchen work in Florida. I ask in interviews if shorts are permitted. I have even signed waivers accepting full responsibility if I burn or cut my legs by any circumstance. I don't own a single pair of pants other than the ones that came with my suits. Comfort is clutch. Stubborn. Probably. But I'll be damned if I am working my ass off for you and sweating profusely all over food. I had a job where they kept cutting my hours, then one day the manager told me I was not dress code compliant. He was a nice guy, so I told him that I couldn't afford to put a whole paycheck to new clothes. He never brought it up again while I worked there. I worked for a dollar store chain back in the day. The store I worked at was closing, so we were tasked with boxing everything up and getting it sent to other locations. I always arrived early, and since the store was closed, I would eat the lunch I brought while I waited for my shift to start. One day district managers came in and were reviewing store tapes and then accused myself and co-workers, 2 other people, of stealing by not working on company time. We all looked at them and reminded them of when my shift started, and the fact that we were in fact entitled to breaks regardless. Well, they didn't like that and still tried to tell us we were stealing company time and basically said we needed to go home and think about what we did and that if we wanted a job we needed to call them. Well, I went home, grabbed my work stuff, and returned it. They were confused. Was this supermarket chain one with an unofficial mascot of a giraffe, by chance? Jesus. I wish I'd been allowed to wear shorts when I was a trolley collector. 100% humidity in 40 degrees Celsius heat, wearing trousers and dress shirt sucked. At least we were allowed to carry a water bottle. I was moving abroad a few years ago. Give my work about 4 months notice I'd be leaving since I was on good terms with them. For the last month, every time I'd see the manager I'd tell him that my last day I need away on a half day to sort paperwork for immigration. I was a delivery driver delivering pallets. I go in on Lee last day. which was the first snow of winter, so took double the usual commute. The office was empty, so I collect my paperwork and see I'm being sent to the opposite end of the country. With collections too, which guarantee being late home. And the icing on the cake, instead of my usual lorry I'd be assigned another guy's which needed fuel. Because he doesn't do refueling. By the time I get back to the office, manager is there and can see I'm not happy. Says forget the collections and some other shit. I don't respond. Set the keys and paperwork on the desk and just leave. Had 2 phone calls and an SMS on the drive home, but I ignored them both. Honestly, what did he expect? What did he possibly think he could hold over me to coax me into missing an appointment about immigration and starting my new life on my last ever day working there? The mind boggles. I had a new band director in college in Arizona that tried to make us wear the jackets to our 40 double knit polyester and wool uniforms at August and September Day games when it was up to 125 F on the field and well over 90 F in the stands. We said, dude, it's too hot. This is how we did it at Northeastern University. Yes. But this is the Arizona desert. One kid nearly passed out. About 30 minutes after pregame. My mom, an RN, went down to the field gate and got the EMS guys after the director ignored her when she told him off about trying to kill his students. We didn't have to wear our jackets in the stands anymore. And he avoided my mom at all costs. She had season tickets by the band grin. I worked at a movie theater for a long time doing 35mm projection. Well, we eventually went digital, so I lost that position, which really sucked cause I loved it. I was moved into management. About a year later, a part-time position opened up at another theater in town that still had 35mm. I jumped at the chance to work with film again while it still existed. So I worked both jobs for a while until the GM of Theater 1 got a wild hair up his ass and gave me the ultimatum, us or them. Claiming it was a conflict of interest to work at both theaters despite the fact that they were totally different business models catering to different people. Anyway, I immediately called his bluff and told him I'd be choosing Theater 2. He was totally dumbfounded and immediately backtracked. Just keep it quiet. LMAO. I ended up quitting Theater 1 anyway a little while later to go full-time at Theater 2. Theater 2 ended up being the best job I've ever had while it lasted. I don't regret it for a second. Screw that manager. Following policy without any consideration for the people actually doing the job. I'm glad you walked away. It's empowering to walk away from a shitty situation. Boss. Gives a ultimatum employee. Quits boss. You weren't supposed to do that. I worked at Target many moons ago and they had a similar policy, except it stated if it was over 80 degrees outside, shorts were allowed. I, being the young hard worker I was, liked wearing shorts nearly year-round. I had noticed a bit of a technicality in the policy. It didn't state that it had to be 80 degrees at the location. Just a vague 80 degrees. So whenever a supervisor brought it up, I gleefully pointed out that it was 80 degrees somewhere. While they weren't happy about it, I technically wasn't breaking the policy. Outstanding. The only thing better is if you had called him son. When a manager needs to manage even if it's a bad idea.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Eracast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.